Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We don't make these recommendations lightly. We do expect these fires to get bigger today and through the weekend.
A raging wildfire creeping closer to homes. Hundreds of people in central BC forced to evacuate. Plus,
it delays us delivering produce, it delays us delivering goods and services that people have ordered throughout the week.
Road closures and uncertainty. As a major connector reopens, officials warn wildfires could force it to shutter at a moment's notice. And
there is a slight increase in sales, but a very sluggish market at this point.
More sluggish than advertised. As real estate insiders celebrate an uptick in sales, economists say they aren't so sure.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. We begin in central BC, where an evacuation order are in effect for the community of Anahim Lake. Hundreds of people have been asked to leave the area because of a cluster of fires burning nearby. I spoke with Michelle Gassoub, CBC reporter, about the evacuation orders earlier.
Janella, the sense of urgency has escalated since last night and early this morning because of not one but 3 fires burning in that area. Around 1,500 people are ordered out of their homes as all previous evacuation alerts were upgraded to evacuation orders. Those include the Beef Trail Creek wildfire that is burning parallel to Highway 20 north of Bella Coola and east of Tweedsmuir Park. It is burning aggressively to the northwest, but fire officials said today that fire is not the one of the most concern. It's the Dusty Lake fire to the southeast, which resulted in last night's evacuation order because it did jump those containment lines. It was sitting around 45 square kilometers last check, and it is growing aggressively. Now there is also a third fire, not yet named, again to the east of Dusty Lake wildfire. It made a big run of around 5 kilometers overnight, and fire officials say they expect more growth in the coming days.
From a fire behavior perspective, we are expecting a big burning day today. We are going to be challenged on our firefight today. So we just want to spread the news that we don't make these recommendations lightly. We do expect these fires to get bigger today and through the weekend.
Michelle, what are you hearing from people who live in the area?
Yeah, I spoke with 2 residents who have stayed behind evacuation lines. Ralph and Grace Terpstra are the owners of Anahim Lake Resort. They moved up there around 3 years ago and have quite a large property with cabins. People are usually renting out at this time of year. They saw that evacuation order come down and they decided to stay because a crew of 18 BC Wildfire Service firefighters are staying on their property with them.
They work the night shift and they need a quiet spot away from all the action to sleep during the day.
They say a number of neighbors have also decided to stay behind, but many more were bussed out very early this morning, or they were seen driving out of town with their bags packed. Evacuees are being asked to travel east along Highway 20 to Williams Lake, where they can check in at the Caribou Memorial Recreation Complex. Now, as we mentioned there, the Beef Trail Creek fire is running parallel to Highway 20, which speaks to the dynamic nature of the situation.
The Highway 20 goes right through the order area. And because of that and the impacts of fire, the status of the highway is going to keep changing.
So their advice, check Drive BC, and if you don't have to be on that section of Highway 20 right now, don't.
The Coquihalla Highway is now open to drivers between Hope and Merritt after the Mine Creek wildfire prompted its days-long closure. Jonna Bailon has more from Hope.
Another day of twists and turns for drivers looking to travel to BC's interior. A stretch of the Coquihalla Highway between Hope and Merritt was reopened around noon after being closed due to the nearby Mine Creek wildfire. Drivers were also detoured this morning after one of 2 resulting detours was temporarily closed due to a head-on collision. BC Highway Patrol alerted travelers that Highway 1 south of Yale would be closed for much of the day after a tractor-trailer and a pickup truck collided head-on around 6 a.m. Friday morning. The closure left Highway 3 through Princeton and Highway 99 through Pemberton as the only main road routes connecting drivers east.
It delays us delivering produce. It delays us delivering goods and services that people have ordered throughout the week. And of course, it just delays everybody in general because, is the highway open today?
The Ministry of Transportation says the Coquihalla has reopened in both directions, but warns the highway could close again with minimal notice. The Mine Creek wildfire has grown to 19,000 square kilometers since being discovered on Monday, prompting evacuation orders and alerts. The Fraser Valley Regional District has also declared a local state of emergency. It's issued an evacuation order for the Coquihalla Lakes Lodge and the site of the Coquihalla Summit Snowmobile Club. Environment Canada has expanded its air quality warnings to cover most of BC as the fire sends smoke and other particulate matter soaring. The worst levels are in the Fraser Valley, particularly around Chilliwack and Hope.
The smoke in and of itself doesn't bother me as much as most people. I grew up outdoors. I still have pretty healthy, pretty strong lungs. But I see it take its effect on other people.
British Columbians are being asked to stay indoors as much as possible, keep windows and doors closed, and if smoke-related symptoms persist, to get medical help. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, Hope, BC.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a first look at the weather and that persistent smoke. Darius?
That's right. We'll talk more about this later in the show, but I just wanted to show this map quickly. Look how much smoke is coming off these fires in the inland central coast, and then a lot coming from BC's southern interior and Washington state as well. That's why we have these special air quality statements blanketing almost all of BC. If you're on Vancouver Island, count yourself lucky, one of the few places that don't have those in place. And largely what is fueling these fires has been a long stretch of hot and dry conditions, as well as the ongoing drought conditions that we have across BC. This map isn't as bad as it was earlier in the summer, but still not a great picture, Janella. And that's why we continue to have high fire danger across the province.
All right. Thank you so much, Darius.
Thank you.
An early morning fire in downtown Prince George gutted a local brewery and restaurant, which was set to host a late summer street festival.
At approximately 2:30-ish a.m., we got a call for a commercial fire alarm en route. It was upgraded to a confirmed structure fire. Upon arrival, we found heavy fire and smoke throughout the building. Firefighters from 4 halls responded to this incident.
Emergency crews shut down a large section of George Street outside Crossroads Brewing and Distillery. The fire chief says when crews arrived, they found the building's roof engulfed in heavy smoke and flames. No word yet on any injuries. Another BC Ferries passenger has gone overboard mid-sailing. This is the second similar incident to happen this week. A company spokesperson says it happened during Thursday's 5 p.m. sailing between Victoria and Vancouver. A rescue boat was deployed and found the individual. BC Ferries did not provide information into the health of the person who went overboard, but the BC Ferry and Marine Workers Union says they were rescued and treated for hypothermia.
It was just east of Active Pass, a little bit farther away from the terminals, and a number of pleasure craft responded to a call for help, men overboard, as well as our crew members aboard the Spirit of British Columbia.
The incident comes after another person went overboard this week on the same route, headed in the opposite direction. McNeely says that passenger went into the water to retrieve an article of clothing they'd lost in the water. BC Ferries has not yet released any information about either of the incidents, but writes going overboard on purpose is extremely dangerous. Vancouver police say they arrested a man for allegedly assaulting and urinating on a woman who was walking downtown early Friday morning. VPD says the victim was walking near West Pender and Beatty Street when she encountered a naked man on top of a parked car. He allegedly began yelling, ran toward her, knocked her to the ground, and urinated on her. Bystanders intervened, called 911, and restrained the man until police arrived. He was arrested and taken to the hospital under the Mental Health Act, where he remains in custody. A bear that was seen approaching people at Burnaby Mountain Park has been caught and killed. The black bear seen here grabbing at picnic food had been spotted in the park for days. Conservation officers set up this trap Thursday, caught the bear, and they say it's now been killed. Pardon me. They say a bear that has lost its fear of humans can no longer safely coexist, and those concerned about keeping bears safe should secure garbage, food, and other attractants. A missing senior's family and friends are hopeful he will be found alive and well after he disappeared from his Surrey neighborhood more than a week ago. Saurabh Sandhu has more on the search efforts.
For more than 9 days, Christina Morrison and her friends and family have been frantically searching every corner of Surrey's Fraser Heights neighborhood for her missing elderly father.
It's a bit of a nightmare, and we just can't wait for it to end. We can't wait to find my dad and bring him home.
Morrison says 76-year-old William Hayworth left his home for a walk around noon on August 27th. But when he didn't return, hours later, his family started looking for him.
He had never not gone back to the house.
Police say at the time of his disappearance, Hayworth, who is a retired school teacher, was wearing a white baseball cap, blue shirt, black shorts, and white sneakers. Morrison says they have recently learned of new information that may help narrow down the search to the Guildford area. She says a neighbor's front door camera shows her father walking down the street just a few blocks away from his home.
Now we finally have some camera footage that shows him going through the local trailhead in our area, up to the recreation center, and then finally a camera that shows him going across the 160th Street overpass over Highway 1.
Hayworth is being described as a white man, 5 feet 10 inches tall and about 200 pounds. Morrison says he has dementia and may appear confused or disoriented.
He left the house with no wallet, no ID, no money. It really didn't seem that he was heading anywhere, was our best guess.
Surrey police say the thickly forested area has made search efforts more challenging.
Officers have deployed drones with thermal imaging. We've had an extensive ground search conducted. They have done a CCTV video canvass.
Morrison says an online group of more than 100 people has been helping her keep track of community leads, and they're focusing their search efforts in the Guildford area next.
He crossed the overpass at 12:36 p.m. last Wednesday, August 27th. And if anybody was in that area around that time and had any footage that could show him where he turned and which direction he went, that would be incredibly helpful.
Investigators are asking people if they see Hayworth to stay with him and call police. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
Vancouver real estate agents have cited new sales numbers as evidence that the region's housing market might be heating up. But as Justin McElroy reports, sales are nowhere near the levels seen a few years ago.
Is Vancouver's real estate market heating up? If you read certain headlines this week, you might think so. The organization representing Greater Vancouver Realtors put out their monthly data and talked about sales being up 3% from last August. That sparked stories in the media saying much the same thing. The analysis by Greater Vancouver Realtors being that with softer home prices, more people are getting into the market. But how much is that really happening? Here is a chart. It shows the monthly average of all residential properties sold in Greater Vancouver, spread out over a year to flatten out seasonal fluctuations. Things are still really flat. We haven't seen a sustained period this low this century. And other housing experts aren't seeing the same signs of life that Vancouver realtors are.
The numbers show it's still a pretty slow market. So we have moved back up, but still the sales flow is very low. Yes, there is a slight increase in sales, but a very sluggish market at this point.
Central One chief economist Brian Yu saying it's not surprising. There's still global economic uncertainty. Interest rates still aren't at the very low rate they were throughout the 2010s. And, of course,
not seeing a lot of movement in terms of affordability improvements due to mortgage rates. And prices themselves, they're off, but again, they're still quite elevated.
And that is true. Here is another chart. The average selling price for detached homes is going down, but it's still near $2 million, and condos and townhomes aren't moving either. So it may well be that the market is heating up. Vancouver realtors implied as such last month, the month before that, this winter, and last fall. Or, as Yu argues, the market is still flat, has been for years, and developers are continuing to adjust to a new Vancouver where boom periods are much rarer than they were before. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Buy Canadian, just one measure in Prime Minister Carney's plan to transform the country's economy. What it means for BC. Next. Prime Minister Mark Carney has rolled out a series of measures aimed at domestic economic growth and easing the pressure of U.S. tariffs on key industries. As Ashley Burke reports, the new measures may signal that the trade troubles are not going anywhere anytime soon.
The Prime Minister visiting this aerospace factory near Toronto to lay out the first phase of his plan to try and transform Canada's economy. He says it needs to withstand the shock and upheaval caused by Donald Trump's tariffs and become far less reliant on the U.S.
Workers displaced from their jobs. Supply chains that have existed for decades disrupted. Companies forced to change where they find their materials and their products. And all of this is causing an extreme uncertainty.
Carney says all that uncertainty is holding back massive amounts of investment, slowing economic growth, and just today new numbers came out showing Canada's unemployment rate is the highest it's been since the pandemic. The Prime Minister announcing a series of new measures to help Canadian industries hit hard by Trump's tariffs.
The government's introducing a new comprehensive Buy Canadian policy that will move from best efforts to buy Canadian to a clear obligation to do so.
Mark Carney says he's also expanding support and loans for small and medium-sized businesses, offering a new incentive for canola and agriculture producers, and delaying a plan to force automakers to hit minimum sale levels for electric vehicles, a move the auto sector says it asked for after facing challenges for years.
Every single manufacturer here committed to making an EV or a battery or a plug-in hybrid. 85% plus of the product that are made here sold to the U.S. And the Americans said, we're ending the incentives, we're ending the industrial support. Let's go back to pickup trucks and dead dinosaurs. And the factories here are geared to push product there.
The Prime Minister's announcement here today is the strongest sign yet that American tariffs against some Canadian sectors are here to stay for the foreseeable future. This as Canada's talks continue with the Trump administration to try and reach a series of small deals to get some Canadian industries relief. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Mississauga, Ontario.
A pipeline from Alberta to BC's North Coast is one of the major infrastructure projects being considered for fast-tracked approvals and funding by Ottawa. That's according to a draft list leaked to the Globe and Mail. As Katie DeRosa reports, BC's energy minister isn't sold on the idea.
It'll cost tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars.
BC Energy Minister Adrian Dix once again dismissing the idea of a new pipeline from Alberta to BC's North Coast. Dix was reacting to a report from the Globe and Mail that a new bitumen pipeline is among the 32 major projects being considered by Ottawa for fast-track approvals and funding. CBC News has not seen the draft list, and the Globe stressed that those projects are just being considered with no final decisions made. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has been a major champion, but Premier David Eby has said he does not support taxpayer dollars propping up a new oil pipeline. Dix encouraged Ottawa to focus on real shovel-ready projects, including the North Coast transmission line, which would help power BC's critical mineral mines. That project is on the draft list, as well as 2 LNG projects and a project to dredge the Burrard Inlet so that oil tankers can carry more barrels of oil from the Port of Vancouver. The BC Business Council says of the 14 energy projects being considered by Ottawa, there's a strong focus on Western Canada.
These are, exactly the kind of trade-enabling infrastructure projects that are not only the province, but the country needs.
One First Nations leader, however, says he's worried about Ottawa's rush to approve major projects.
I would like to make sure that First Nations are a big part of that decision-making process.
Prime Minister Mark Carney did not comment on the draft list during a press conference on Friday. But last week, he appointed the former head of the Trans Mountain Pipeline to lead the major projects office, giving some hints as to which resource projects could be at the top of the list. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
Smoke, haze, and some cyclists in Whistler Blackcomb today. Darius has your provincial forecast coming up. For a second straight month, the number of jobs in the country has shrunk. A report by StatsCan for August puts the unemployment rate at 7.1%, up half a percentage point since January. Nisha Patel has the story.
As the trade war drags on, the labor market is feeling the fallout. From manufacturing to transportation, industries hit hardest by tariffs are shedding jobs.
We may be in for a rougher ride than we might have expected at first.
Canada's economy lost 66,000 jobs last month, mostly part-time positions. The unemployment rate now sits at 7.1%, the highest level since 2016 outside of the pandemic. The numbers were weaker than economists were expecting. Sectors not as exposed to trade saw reductions too, from professional and technical services to education.
This thing is that the bad news is spreading here. I think employers, businesses in general, they're very concerned about the uncertainty that we're facing.
Much of the pain is concentrated in Ontario's manufacturing hubs. Windsor now has an unemployment rate of 11.1%. In Oshawa, it's climbed to 9%. Here, General Motors is slowing production at this plant because of tariffs, forcing one of its parts suppliers to lay off 250 workers.
Basically, our workforce really reflects our community. So all ages, all ethnicities are represented. And, it really is heart-wrenching to see them lose their position.
Companies are so much slower to hire. They're being a lot pickier with what they're looking for.
Dana Theberge is a recruiter for skilled trades and manufacturing. She's seen a steady decline in hiring this year.
The people that are calling me looking for work, especially in the trade sector, there is absolutely a lot more of a desperation to what they are asking for in terms of what it's been like in previous years.
A weaker job market and a slower economy may prompt action from the Bank of Canada. Many economists are predicting the central bank will likely cut interest rates at its next meeting later this month. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is pausing the federal government's 2026 electric vehicle targets and launching a review into the overall mandates. It's part of a new strategy to take the pressure off the automotive industry and support sectors impacted by U.S. tariffs. Evan Dyer reports.
We have an auto sector, because of the massive change in U.S. trade policy, is under extreme pressure.
Mark Carney says tariffs have changed the situation for Canadian automakers, who are going to face a mandate next year requiring them to make at least 1 in 5 cars they sell electric.
They've got enough on their plate right now, so we're taking that off.
Carney says the mandate will be put on pause while the government conducts a 60-day review. Car makers won't have to meet the quota next year. Environmentalists say it's a disappointment.
We're worried. We don't really know what the extent of the review is going to be. And to be honest, we don't have a clear indication of the extent to which this government, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, remains committed to fighting climate change.
The auto industry, on the other hand, says pressure from south of the border made the change necessary.
We need the White House to change course. We need to invest in ourselves. I'm glad that we punted right now, but I'm also glad that we're still committed to it.
But not everyone is convinced the industry really is that committed, pointing to the fact that a maker like Ford hasn't brought a new electric model to the North American market in 4 years.
If you're serious about selling electric vehicles, you should be introducing models, right? And they have it. Now, in the meantime, they've introduced several models in Europe, the Explorer in particular, which I think would sell really well here. But they're selling in Europe, not here.
Lurie says that if the big three won't step up and the Trump administration is determined to go backwards, Canadians should have other options.
The mandate should remain, but the other thing that I think they should do is lower the tariffs on Chinese vehicles.
But the Canadian industry says Chinese car makers add nothing to the Canadian economy.
I think any loosening of the tariff for the Chinese has to come with an opportunity for Canadian suppliers or minerals and raw materials or dealers or Canadian workers. Right now, that's not the prospect.
2 provinces, Quebec and British Columbia, still have EV mandates on the books, but the federal and provincial rebates that once encouraged buyers are mostly gone. The federal government says it's considering bringing back a new federal rebate, but EV enthusiasts say that delay just encourages buyers to wait to see if they can get the same car for a better price later on. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The self-proclaimed Queen of Canada appeared in a Saskatchewan court today. Romana Didallo faces charges of failure to comply with an undertaking and intimidation of a justice system participant. Ricky Mans faces similar charges. He owns the old school in a small town where police conducted a raid on Wednesday. Didallo and her followers had been living there for 2 years. Police arrested 16 people during the raid and later released them without charges, but they re-arrested Didallo and Mans when they violated an order not to contact each other. Police say they raided the compound after receiving a report of firearms there. Officers seized 13 imitation semi-automatic handguns, ammunition, and many electronic devices. Didallo formed a fringe political party in 2020, and her followers are known for spreading conspiracy theories. The investigation continues into Wednesday's crash of a funicular rail car in Portugal, and so does the mourning. 16 people were killed, including 2 Canadians. The CBC's Chris Brown has their story.
The full international scope of the tramcar crash is coming into focus as a memorial at the accident site grows, and Portuguese authorities confirm the dead includes 11 foreigners. Among them, André Bergeron and Blandine Do of Quebec.
He was on vacation in Portugal for his 70th birthday, and his wife invited him as a gift, for his birthday. They were a happy couple. He just retired. He was just starting to enjoy, have fun.
Eric Bergeron is André's brother. The couple were prominent archaeologists who worked together at the Quebec Conservation Centre in Quebec City. Wednesday was to be the last day of their Portuguese holiday, and when news of the crash broke, Bergeron says he feared the worst.
I continued to text him, text his wife, say, are you there? Are you there? Are you okay? Delivered. So, okay, the phone is on. They don't respond. Something's wrong. And their daughter contacted the B&B where they were residing, and they were supposed to fly out. And they said, well, they didn't come back to pick up their luggage.
Then came the call from Global Affairs with the terrible news.
I'm not processing it yet, emotionally speaking, but I've been up and down crying and not crying. So my 2 nieces are shattered, of course. Imagine you lose your 2 parents in one shot, bang, like that.
The early working theory is that the cable that guided the 2 funicular rail cars up the steep cobblestone streets snapped. Those who were killed or hurt were on the tram that was descending when it flew off the rails at high speed and hit a building. Bergeron says he met with investigators Friday, but they wouldn't reveal much about the cause of the crash.
They don't want to disclose too much. It's still ongoing. It's early days. I think that investigation will last months.
In a release, Quebec's Culture Ministry called the couple pillars of the restoration community, and it said André Bergeron was considered a pioneer in his field. Chris Brown, CBC News, Lisbon.
It has now been 700 days since Hamas militants conducted a massacre in Israel, sparking the war in Gaza. Israelis marked the day by taking to the streets, demanding the country's leaders secure the release of the hostages that remain in Hamas captivity. The Israeli military, meanwhile, continued its offensive in Gaza City, and as Sacha Petrusik reports, it struck a high-rise building after issuing an evacuation warning.
There was a dramatic scene in the center of Gaza City. Multiple Israeli airstrikes hitting one of the tallest residential buildings in the city. As these hit the building, many people were sent running. Many people have also been living in tents all around that building, and there were injuries there as well. Now, this is significant because it's part of Israel's ramping up of attacks on Gaza City, where some million people have been living. It's been considered one of the few relatively safe parts of the territory because Israel has not had a military presence there, at least not a permanent one. But in the last few days, it has been ramping up these attacks, hitting various parts of the city with artillery, with tanks, and with airstrikes, and trying to get more people to move out of there. It's already ordered people to move, but many don't want to go because they don't consider anywhere else in Gaza to be safe anyway, so they may as well stay. However, they have opened themselves up to death and injuries.
مالناش ذنب، احنا نايمين الاولاد وشفنا لنا شظايف تسقط اتت في الاطفال كلها والبنات اربعه كلهم صوبن الاربعه اثنين راحوا واثنين ظلوا كلهم اطفال ايش ذنب بالاطفال.
Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, says things are only going to get worse as Israel launches its major offensive to take over Gaza City within the coming days. He says today's strikes is just the beginning of the opening of the gates of hell, as he put it. This sort of attack and this operation is worrying people in Israel too. The majority, in fact, who are worried that the remaining living hostages there are going to be put at risk. There's 48 hostages still in Gaza. 20 of them are believed to be alive, and Hamas released a video of one of these who has been held for almost 2 years now.
That's CBC's Sasha Petrusik reporting. Russian President Vladimir Putin is warning that Western troops deployed to Ukraine would be considered targets by Moscow forces. His comments came hours after European leaders re-pledged their commitment to provide a potential peacekeeping force in Ukraine. CBC's Crystal Gumansing has more.
Готовы к сотрудничеству.
Well, speaking at a Russian economic forum, President Vladimir Putin said foreign military contingents in Ukraine would be legitimate targets. The threat comes the day after commitments were announced from 26 nations for a post-war reassurance force for Ukraine.
Что касается возможных контингентов воинских на Украине, но это одна из первопричин втягивания Украины в НАТО. Поэтому, если там будут появляться какие-то войска, особенно сейчас, в ходе ведения боевых действий, исходим из того, что это будут законные цели для их поражения.
The threat from Putin shouldn't come as a surprise. We've seen this before when Western weapon shipments started, for example. The Kremlin said those would be legitimate targets. Russian efforts to dissuade allies and weaken support for Ukraine has been an ongoing theme since the start of the full-scale invasion. One of the justifications the Kremlin gave for the full-scale invasion was to protect itself from NATO as Ukraine was seeking to join the military alliance. In the years since, NATO has grown. Finland joined in 2023, Sweden the next year. And now there are commitments from the Coalition of the Willing for an international force with the goal of maintaining peace. Few details have been released, but today Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said it would involve thousands of foreign troops.
І також ми розуміємо, які країни що готові запровадити. А також це питання, про які ви сказали, що є інформація, що розгортання 10 тисяч. Я знов-таки не буду говорити про кількість, але важливо, що ми все це обговорюємо. Так, це буде точно не в одиницях, а в тисячах. І це факт, але про це ще трішки зарано говорити.
Well, President Putin says if there is a peace agreement, foreign troops wouldn't be needed, that Moscow would respect the peace deal. At this point, there aren't even peace talks. U.S. President Donald Trump has been keen on getting a deal and said he would be speaking to Putin again in the near future. NBC, however, reports that Trump is losing hope for an agreement between Russia and Ukraine. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
For the second time in 3 years, Canada's Gabrielle Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe are U.S. Open women's doubles champions. More on their big victory next. Ottawa's Gabriella Dabrowski and her New Zealand partner Aaron Routliffe won their second career U.S. Open women's doubles title. Jamie Strachan reports.
It's out! And they've done it! And with that, another Grand Slam title for Ottawa's Gabriella Dabrowski. Alongside her partner Aaron Routliffe, who lives in Montreal but represents her native New Zealand, the duo knocked off the top-seeded team to capture the U.S. Open Women's Doubles Championship.
We've been through so much together. I feel extremely grateful to be standing here as a champion alongside you today.
It's the second U.S. Open title for the pair and Dabrowski's first since undergoing treatment for breast cancer.
It means the world, so thank you for sticking by me. Thank you for the support.
Dabrowski has also won 2 Grand Slams in mixed doubles.
Dabrowski! The half volley.
She also won a bronze medal in mixed doubles at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Doubles court.
The 33-year-old never had much success in singles, but those close to the game say her style is perfect for doubles.
She has such good hands. Just covers the court really well, and her communications is really good, and that's a key thing in doubles, isn't it?
He Boulay points out doubles tennis requires a unique blend of strategy and shot making.
You got to be quick, obviously, and you have to have a lot of courage.
The win caps a difficult year for Dabrowski. Since her diagnosis in 2024, she had 2 separate surgeries during a 3-month break from the sport.
Any more time that I got on the tennis court was sort of a bonus. And so I started to just enjoy all the moments of training. I started to enjoy the moments where I was competing.
Making her appreciate every opportunity the game has given her. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Darius Madavi is back with another look at our weekend weather. Darius?
I want to start by looking at the smoke that we can see on satellite, and as you can tell, very visible throughout the province. This is just the past 8 hours. I just pulled it in, and you can see all that smoke traveling down through BC from those fires up on the central coast. And actually, if we look here, you can see where it's heading. This is southern BC. You can see how dense that smoke is, especially in parts of the eastern Fraser Valley. Environment Canada earlier today said that it was the worst air quality could possibly be in that area. So a real big problem there. You'll also notice a lot of smoke coming off these fires on the inland central coast. That's driving a lot of the smoke that is moving into the central and southern interior as well. But there is also some coming up from Washington State and from some fires closer to the coast here. That's driving a lot of the smoke that's heading into places like Squamish and Whistler, places that also had very bad air quality today. Now, that was the smoke from yesterday that we were just looking at. This is the forecast for the next 24 hours. And again, look at all that smoke that's going to be coming off these fires here. Very dense there, a lot of haze coming up. The Northeast gets a little bit more than they have up in the far sections, but the Peace already got a lot of smoke today as well. And I will also note Vancouver continues to get a lot of haze. Surface smoke might be a little bit better tomorrow, but smoke forecasting is very difficult and it can change very quickly. Expect the air quality to still be moderate at best tomorrow for much of Metro Vancouver for at least part of the day. Here are the temperatures over the next couple of days. You'll notice they've fallen quite significantly in the southern interior in particular. That is at least in part due to all the smoke that we're going to have sitting in that area. That heat wave is also tapering off now, so that also helps improve conditions a little bit there. In terms of rain, we actually are looking like we could get a little bit of precipitation. There's going to be a low moving across Washington State, pushing some precipitation up here. With that being said, as you can tell, very sporadic, and I wouldn't expect this to change too much on the weather front. If we get a few downpours in just the right locations, maybe helping alleviate a little bit, but really don't expect too much, including here in Vancouver and across Vancouver Island. Don't expect to see much in the way of showers, but there will be a little bit of something. Fire danger remains high, especially at that pocket right there that you saw, where we also have a lot of smoke coming off of those fires. That area, you'll notice, also extreme. More thunderstorms this weekend also means the likelihood of fires will increase, especially on Sunday. The likelihood of new fires, I should say. Expect more smoky conditions tomorrow, another very humid day, and then we start to get the chance of showers coming in. But again, don't expect high totals.
Nice to see a little bit of rain in the forecast. Thanks so much, Darius. But before you go, guess what? It's Fun Fact Friday, and with kids heading back to school, Darius, you're going to tell us about literal brain power.
That's right. The first day of school was earlier this week, and as kids returned to the classrooms, you might wonder, they spent the summer being outside, burning off all that energy. How are they going to do once they're back indoors? And the answer is, their brains do burn a lot of energy. Of all the organs in your body, all the things that consume energy, the individual body parts, the brain consumes the most. 400 to 500 calories in an adult every day goes to just your brain. That is a lot of energy just for maintenance, and it means that the brain is very power hungry. And so you might wonder, if I sat down and just really thought hard, could I burn enough extra calories to not have to go out for a run, go work out? Not really. If you sit down and do a lot of cognitively difficult work for a full 8 hours, you burn an extra 100 calories. So,
hey, a calorie is a calorie.
Sure.
Thanks so much, Darius.
Thanks.
Don't despair, it's not a robot invasion. UBC introduces bot guides to help students find their way around the campus bookstore. That story is next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox. Join CBC's Dan Burrett on September 24th at Dakota's signature fundraising event, the Team Trivia Challenge, supporting Literacy Month in BC. Register your team at dakota.ca. And come watch some amazing soccer as Vancouver Rise takes the pitch this Saturday. Stop by the CBC tent and share your soccer stories for a chance to win some great prizes.
If you've ever found yourself cluelessly searching for a book in the aisles of the bookstore, despair no more.
A trio of Kiwi bots are putting their knowledge on display at the UBC Bookstore to help jaded students find their footing on campus and books. Danielle Piper has the story.
One more book. Do you have repetition?
It's back to school week, and that means it's back to the bookstore to search the stacks for textbooks. And I don't know about you, but sometimes there's that one book you just can't seem to find. Usually there's a UBC bookstore clerk to help out. Soon, there will be another. That slight whirring sound you hear? That's one of 3 robotic ambassadors at UBC Vancouver's bookstore. It kind of looks like a Pixar character, WALL-E, but with wheels. It's also its first week on campus.
I did not know about Kelly, our robot friend, until I walked out of the bookstore.
This ambassador is one of 3, and they all have slightly different jobs. Kelly is stationed outside the bookstore, and with the help of UBC staff, it's learning to navigate inside and outside. Its job is to help students get ready for the new school term by providing knowledge about the campus and its events. All you have to do is simply push a button on the robot's lid and speak to it.
When was UBC founded?
UBC was founded in 1908. It began operations at Fairview in 1915 and moved to its current location in Point Grey in 1925.
But Kelly doesn't just give out knowledge. The robot ambassador is also learning.
We want to look at how we can improve communications. And communication these days are more than human-to-human communications. We need to look at how machine can interact.
Raymond Chow is the program manager of the Rogers UBC Collaborative Research and Innovation Partnership, an effort to create North America's first 5G campus network as kind of a living lab for innovations.
Can I help you with information about the bookstore?
Along with KiwiBot, this robotics company based in San Francisco, California, they're spearheading this pilot project for the first time on a Canadian campus.
The amount of knowledge that he's gaining, right, every day depends on the material that we are feeding him and the interactions that he's having with the student community.
So that Raymond, is referring to?
Meet Robson. He's a Kiwi bocce.
Robson is the other robot ambassador. Gray is the third. Get it? Kelly, Robson, Gray. They're named after UBC's 3 core campuses. Robson and Gray's job is to hand out treats, like bottles of water. Both are still learning the ins and outs of interacting with humans. So, how do you train a robot to communicate? It's complicated, but sometimes it requires out-of-the-box thinking.
I try to swear at him and see how he will respond, because we don't want him to swear back at me, right? We ask some very HR-sensitive questions to make sure that he can respond in a way that is friendly to our staff and faculty.
So now that we've met the bots, what do the students think of them?
I could see it being useful in more places around campus, especially if it would be able to help you kind of find locations and like classes and stuff like that.
Well, it looks like Kelly, Gray, and Robson are going to have a bright future at UBC. For On the Coast, I'm Danielle Piper.
Super cool. Thanks for being with us tonight.
I'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock right after the National. Have a great night.